Leadership transformation for us means that a leader has to take into context not only their own narrative, their own skill sets. We don't address leadership transformation just in terms of individual competencies, but those competencies have to be in service to a larger context.
So it could be that what's always worked for them in the past isn't working now because it's a new role, or they transition, or they have a new team, or they have switched to a new organization. It could just be that they have reached a point where they're ready for what's next.
We would typically be brought in to work with a leader that was seen as having great potential, maybe doing really, really well in their current context, but either they or the organization has aspirations beyond that.
We see leaders who come into organizations and assume that they can be the same leader in this new organization that they were in the previous organization where they had success. But we also know statistically that more than 50% of executives fail within the first couple of years of entering a new organization, particularly mid-level executives to senior level executives. And those reasons are pretty consistent. What we do is help them understand how the principles, the skill sets that they bring from former experience apply in this new reality.
For many, coaching has been seen as something where it's about a leader who needs to be fixed. So oftentimes it's that fixing that's identified as change that one thing, or I don't like how you did that in that meeting, or I want you to interact differently with your team, and there's a specific problem to be fixed. However, a lot of times what happens is that the problem gets addressed only to surface 6 months later.
They have to want to do some hard work on themselves. So it's aligning their leadership with who they are as people, the organization which they work in, the team and relationships they build around them. I think a lot of what we're doing with leaders is helping them understand the patterns they've created and the patterns they're part of, which are basically at a subconscious level. And honestly, I think they quite often believe they're outside of their control when in fact they're the ones who created the patterns.
And they're starting to recognize that some of the patterns of their behavior, some of the ways they lead are not as effective as they need to be. Some flat sides or downsides in their leadership behavior will be exacerbated in a broader context.
All of that undergirds more sustainable transformation. So if you can actually get to surfacing what those beliefs and values are and begin to reshape those, then you can actually get to a place of more sustainable transformation.
You've got to establish a great deal of openness, candor, trust, intimacy. He's got to know, I'm on your side, I'm willing to tell you the truth, I'm going to tell you some hard stuff, I acknowledge how hard this is for you. Transformation only happens in community, even if the community is just two people, right?
And we do invest in every single client in a very personal way. And I think that's what helps create that environment where they feel safe and challenged. There's definitely a first sign that you see when a leader begins to make a shift in their transformation. And that first sign to me is always a new insight or a new aha that they have. So it's an insight that gives them new information that they haven't held before. This aha is something that really changes the leader themselves.
Is it going to be worth it? Can we even succeed? Can we make a difference? Is this worth investing the dollars in? But when you fast forward 8-10 months and you see not just a leader more gratified in their own skin, more comfortable in their own role, you know you haven't changed just their life and their world, but you've changed the lives of thousands of people because their leadership touches them.
So as I think about a leader that I've been working with, very large system, undergoing massive transformation, to some extent, large portions of the organization have sort of written him off as being very difficult. You know, he's got great potential, he's got a tremendous intellect, he understands the industry, almost better than anybody. He understands where they sit within the competitive space. He's got great instincts about customers. And so, we're brought in, help him understand how he's being seen, the aspects of his style, of his chosen behaviors that are getting in his way. And over time, he was able to say, you're right.
It's humbling. It's very humbling to know that you've held the innermost sacred territory of a leader in your hands. And together, it's nothing we do, but together you have figured out a way to make it become more than it was going to become. There were obstacles in the way. There were operative narratives that were driving behaviors that weren't productive. There were fears in the way. There were belief systems that were flawed. There were assumptions that were never tested. And when you have to go dig all that up and reshape it into new behavior for the context that you're in, there's nothing more gratifying than seeing that work.